Welcome to Late Night Health, the radio and video program that cares about the most important part of your life, your health. Hi, I'm Mark Alyn, and along with Dr. Greg Celaya, we're going to take a look at a topic that I think is touching more and more people, and even people at a younger age. We'll find that out from Dr. Greg Celaya. We're going to talk about, I guess, food as it relates to arthritis. Did I get that right?
No, we're going to talk about gut microbiome as it relates to arthritis. I guess it's kind of the same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, but did you know that 30% of people over the age of 35 have arthritis? And arthritis is a broad term, right? It's just basically pain in a joint, and it's a chronic pain in a joint.
But isn't it, in quotes, just part of growing older? Don't we all, I mean, you said 30% of people over 35. What about over 50 or over 60?
Well, I'm sure those numbers are huge. You know, when we start looking at 35, I guess you have to really look at causation and what type of arthritis, right? If it's degenerative arthritis from all the nonsense you put yourself through when you were a kid, that's another story. But there's so many different forms of arthritis. And we find that a lot of arthritic conditions can be a result of poor diet and gut microbiome problems.
You would then be a proponent of food as medicine. You are, or we are, what we eat.
Absolutely, we are what we eat. You know, if you don't have the proper food, you're not going to create the healthy gut microbiome. We're going to each of those bugs needs to be maintained, right? Because they help feed our system. So we feed them, they feed us. If we don't feed them properly, they're not going to feed us. And in addition to that, they're not going to be able to keep the bad guys at bay, right? The good bacteria won't keep the bad ones at bay and therefore create inflammation because our body sees an inflammatory problem. And hence, then it starts to inflame.
The microbiome that we have within each one of us is then a symbiotic relationship.
Absolutely. You know, we all learn that one in school, but it is definitely a symbiotic relationship. And, you know, there's so many different ways that people work with their arthritic conditions. And certain research studies have found that cultures of these microbiome are altered by the type of NSAIDs that you take, right? And in addition to that, certain cultures are very prevalent in different forms of arthritis, different bacterial cultures in your gut. So all this stuff is just extremely important to be able to understand.
Let me get this right. Arthritis may be affected by bacteria?
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's, you know, just because you may have an inflammatory response in a joint doesn't mean that that's the only place that it's occurring, right? So, you know, if you have leaky gut, there's different autoimmune tendencies like rheumatoid arthritis, where there may have been amino acid sequences that have breached the gut wall, and hence your body sets up an immune response. And as it does so, a lot of the proteins in the joints may look like those amino acid sequences that came into the body, which shouldn't be there. And now your body's immune system starts to attack it. And rheumatoid arthritis can be dramatic. But the benefits from treating it correctly can be huge, huge benefits.
With crippling arthritis, where people literally shrivel up or appear to shrivel up, is that something that at least the pain part of the arthritis can be reduced by changing diet and working with that microbiome?
Absolutely. I've worked with so many cases of rheumatoid arthritis, and it's just huge the benefit they have. And, you know, the problem is most of them are on NSAIDs. They're on an anti-inflammatory type of response. And there's so many different issues with that. When we reduce the secretion of inflammatory prostaglandins, we have to understand these prostaglandins help protect our gut as well. So when you start taking those medications that may help your symptoms, not treating the cause, you may cause more gut problems and hence more gut microbiome problems and hence more inflammation and more problems down the line with your arthritis. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and it would be a vicious cycle. The more pain you have, for example, from arthritis, the more pain reliever or anti-inflammatory you want, And so it gets worse. It's a vicious cycle.
Right. The more you take over time, the worse you're going to get.
And what can we do about that? How do we reduce the pain to, first of all, and also, is there a way of reducing arthritis itself?
Well, the whole secret, if you can, is never to get stuck in that position in the first place, right? I mean, obviously, if you do have an autoimmune disease that can lead to autoimmune arthritis or rheumatoid, there are definitely things to do, but it takes time. You're not just going to show up one day with somebody with a severe flare-up and fix them or get to the root cause. So the proper testing makes a big difference. Also, the right treatment. To be able to understand what's going on with the microbiome is huge, and the right testing is huge. Most doctors don't actually test correctly for your gut microbiome. It's got to be done right. You have to look at everything and be able to understand it. And therefore, if you are having a severe flare-up, that's another story. But usually with the patients we're treating, you don't have those flare-ups, right? You don't get stuck in a circular pattern of treating it with anti-inflammatories, which make it worse over time, and hence you need more anti-inflammatories. So
my understanding also is that with arthritis, working out with weights, maybe light weights, can also reduce the pain and the severity of the arthritis. It has nothing to do with the microbiomes. It's just something that popped into my head.
Yeah, there's so many different things that we can do. We just kind of limited this conversation a little bit to more of the microbiome. But yeah, exercise can be huge for arthritic conditions. And, it's just if you don't use it, you're going to lose it. But overusing it creates a problem too. I see a lot of runners, and, I used to be a runner myself, and I was addicted. But we can talk about that one another time. But people become addicted, and they start running, they start wearing out their joints, they end up going to the doctor, having an x-ray, saying, hey, you've got a problem, but they keep running, and eventually there's only so much you can do at that point, because it's a degenerative issue due to lifestyle, right? So
right.
Changing diet at that point may make a difference, but it's not going to give you back your cartilage that you've already destroyed.
As somebody in professional sports who gets, knocked to the ground every Sunday by several 300-pound men, jumping, running, skiing, all of this to excess can also lead to damage later in life, right?
Oh, absolutely. Everybody that participates in sports will pay somehow, some way in the future. I see a lot of MMA guys, and I love those guys because they're so fit and just really appreciate their body. But unfortunately, over time, they're walking in barely being able to walk at a young age. It's pretty amazing.
Yeah, I guess we're wearing out our bodies, is what you're saying.
Pretty much. And, there's so many different things to do. Food, first off, you have to make sure you nourish your gut microbiome, those bacteria. They have to be fed right. If you don't feed them right, they're not going to be able to control the bad guys. And we do that with probiotics. We do that with glutamine. We do that with butyrate. We decrease stress, which decreases inflammation because of the adrenals. I mean, there's a lot of different things to go on here. But usually it's the right testing to be able to understand these conditions to start with. So you don't just do stuff blind.
Got it. Well, Dr. Celaya, thank you very much for joining us on Late Night Health. If you want some information on microbiomes and arthritis, check out Dr. Celaya's website at DrCelaya. That's drcelaya.com. And visit us at latenighthealth.com. Lots of information over there as well. Dr. Celaya, thank you very much for joining us today. We'll see you next time, all right?
Will do. Take care.
All right. I'm Mark Alyn. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye for now.